Hi, welcome to Big Girl Pants Podcast, where we talk about health, wellness, careers, parenting, relationships, and everything in between. I am your host, April Melton. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Big Girl Pants Podcast. Today we have Tiffani Higgins. Tiffani is a mom of 5 and an entrepreneur. You are a stay-at-home bookkeeper, and that is also your website, stayatHomeBookkeeper.com.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I initially found out about you through, I guess, what is a podcast booking agent or something like that. I don't know even how that works. Like, did you sign up with that person and then she markets you out to other podcasts?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Uh-huh.
Do you pay for that?
Yeah, I did. It was an investment, and then they helped me get on like 24 different shows.
24?
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Have you liked all of them?
Yeah, it's been really great. Like, just all sorts of different types of people I've been able to meet on these different podcasts.
Have you done most of them on Zoom?
Yeah, most of them have been on Zoom.
Do you like Zoom or in person better?
Well, this is really fun.
Okay, great.
Yeah, this is really fun.
So
I haven't
I win.
done any
So I
in person
win.
yet, so this is cool.
This is the first one?
Yeah, I feel like famous.
Wow. I'm so honored. Well, and we should say, too, for everybody who's listening, you drove up from Houston to come here.
I did.
And you brought your family, your younger 3 kids. So you're a mom of 5.
Yes.
What are their ages and boys, girls? You don't have to say their names, but.
I have a boy that's about to turn 17.
Okay.
And then I have a daughter that's 15.
Okay.
Another daughter that's about to turn 7. And we have twin boys that are 4.
Awesome.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah.
We were talking before the show, actually really good dialogue before the show. We should have got that recorded. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just kidding. About just parenting and being a mom and the insane responsibility and job that it is, but also like the most rewarding job I've ever had in my entire life ever.
Yes.
Like my favorite thing to do. If I could be, it's so hard. It's funny too, because it's like in the name of your website, stay-at-home bookkeeper. Like if I could be a stay-at-home mom and be completely fulfilled, I would do that. But I don't find that fills all of my buckets.
Yeah, it would be kind of hard because in some ways it's very, very fulfilling, but in some ways it's kind of boring.
And also overwhelming sometimes.
Yes, overwhelming.
And never leaving the house.
And having some like high-level challenging adult conversations every now and then is good.
Right. Like it keeps your brain like, in peak condition.
Yes.
Right? It's like working out for your brain.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom when Chloe was, so from the time that when I was pregnant, my ex-husband, we talked about this, was in the oil field. So we moved 9 times in 5 years, packed up all of our stuff, moved all over the country, Pittsburgh, Kansas, North Dakota, and then back to Texas. And from the time that I was like probably 6 months pregnant with Chloe, I stopped working and I just stayed home. And I stayed home with her until she was about 1.5 years. And then we got separated, got divorced, and I had to go back to work. And I will say that it's crazy how being a mother, you feel all types of guilt in every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
Like, it's just my existence is just guilt-ridden. It's like, I've just succumbed to it by this point. It's just like, whatever. And I mean, not that I don't just hold on to it all the time, but it's just like, you feel like, maybe I could be doing more in work. Maybe I could be doing more as a mother. Maybe I could be doing more as a spouse. Maybe I could be doing more as a friend, all of those things. But I found that going back to work and, like you said, like exercising my brain.
Yeah.
And made me a much better mom.
That's awesome.
And exercising my body made me a much better mom. Like there's so many different things that made me a much better mom. But I still feel like I could do more.
Yeah, I go down that journey like pretty hardcore. I feel like I've lived a lot of my life in mom guilt. And so it's been a really big passion of mine to figure out all the ways in which we can eradicate that.
Yeah. It sucks. I hate it. What do you do to combat it?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that I'm here, kind of to talk a little bit about my program, that's one of the things that really helped me to eradicate a lot of the guilt was not working a corporate job that kept me away for so long, so many hours, and working towards like more certifications and always trying to climb up the corporate ladder took me more and more away from them too.
Yeah.
So that always caused a lot of guilt for me, but also just realizing too that we are not responsible for our kids' happiness, I think has been a huge, realization for me, because I've run around my whole life trying to make sure, are they happy? Are they content? Are they doing well? Am I doing a good job? But you can't really make anyone happy. So you just, you've got to do the best that you can and teach them the things that you want to teach them, but they have to be happy on their own.
For sure. I tell Chloe all the time that she's responsible. I'm trying to teach her that, like, you have to be accountable, right, for yourself. So, like, if we go, she's a little bit different than me. Like, she gets, I don't know if it's social anxiety, but she does have a little bit of anxiety that I've just started to pick up on. I don't tell her that she has anxiety because I don't want her to think about that all the time on top of the anxiety that she already has. But, like, when we go to the nail salon and, people think she's beautiful. And of course, I think she's beautiful. I'm her mom. But they touch her. Like, they want to give her a hug or touch her head or whatever makes her insanely uncomfortable. So I tell her, I say, you are responsible for you. If someone is doing something that you don't like, you need to tell them. I appreciate it. Please don't touch me. Like, please don't do that anymore. Please don't do this anymore. Or, I really don't like it when you do that, or whatever. You don't have to be rude about it. But, I'm sure you've experienced it with all of your children that, you're walking down the street or walking in a mall or something and women are touching your baby, or they try to reach out and touch a foot or a hand or whatever. You're like, thank you. Please don't touch my kid. But yeah, and I'm trying to teach her that, because somebody else makes a decision and you feel like that impacts you, that they're not responsible for your happiness. Like, if you're upset about something that they choose to do, that's on you. You're upset about that. They don't care.
Yep, absolutely. No, that's a great lesson to start teaching her at an early age, to learn how to tactfully and politely stand up for herself and not feel guilty for having those feelings of not wanting people to come into your bubble and into your space.
And bro, get out of my bubble. Like, this is my dance space. This is your dance space. So what, you mentioned corporate America. What did you do before your company now?
Yeah. So my kind of journey with, like, working and having kids, I knew from, like, the very beginning when I was 16, took my first accounting class in high school, that this was something that really piqued my interest out of anything else. And a lot of people in my family had businesses. So I got a little bit of exposure of what it looked like on the inside, helped my dad do payroll and worked with QuickBooks and stuff. And then when I graduated high school, I went to college and got my accounting degree. And then I had my first kid. We got married and had my first kid, like, right after I graduated from college. And so that completely changed my entire perspective on life. I was like, wait a minute, you mean I can't have a career and be the kind of mom I want to be?
Wait, what?
This is like,
I can't lunch with my other mom friends and also go to work? We can't have play dates in the middle of the day and I make money?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be great.
That would be so awesome. So I just, right from the very beginning, kind of felt like I had to choose. And then that mom guilt just, like, kicked in and, slammed me pretty hard from the early age.
Hit you like a truck.
Yeah. And it's shocking. And you don't even, you are totally not prepared for it, along with everything else you're not prepared for when you have that
and
first
nobody
kid.
tells you that stuff. They're just like, oh, maternity clothes.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody prepares you for that. So I tried to work through it for a while, but then I was the same. When my first son turned 6 months old, I really couldn't be away from him anymore. And it was just too hard on me. So I kind of put my career on hold and stayed home with them, had my second child and was still home with her for a while. And then I got a divorce as well. So that kind of pushed me back into...
You're like, oh, snap, I got to work now. I got to make money for
now
myself.
I've got to find an actual job instead of just a bunch of side gigs, like working part-time at at the gym daycare, taking the kids there. That was really great.
How perfect
it was so
is that,
fun.
though? You get paid and you get to watch your kids at the same time.
Yes, exactly. That was
we
really...
pay them more money.
It was really great.
Yeah.
But you can't have a household off of just that kind of income.
Oh, like $7 an hour? You can't pay all your bills with
Pretty
that?
sure that's what I made.
Yeah.
So then I had to kind of go back. And so I was like, well, I have this awesome degree and I love accounting. So I started to try to get jobs, and still, like, every job was like $35,000 or, $40,000.
Still don't
like,
pay staff accountants that much.
yeah, I mean,
Like
it was
55, 60. It's just not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was challenging. And then it was right when they were first getting into school, and my kids are really shy. So it was a very hard time for them, and me being gone a lot more, and then having to hire somebody to pick them up after school and take them home. And
Struggle.
yeah, all that was pretty hard. So yeah. And then when I, decided I wanted to actually like do something that was going to further me, I decided to go after my CPA license, which required more school and
more money and more commitment and more time.
Yes. And so I went after that and got a job at a CPA firm because I was like a little bit more where I feel like I could climb up a little bit, be promoted. And so I got my CPA license, and then I went, and right after I got my CPA license, I had my third child. And then right into tax season. And so
80-hour weeks.
Yeah, it was
on.
pretty terrible. My boss was pretty lenient on me. Like I only had to work about 60. But when you have a newborn at home,
60?
Yeah, 60 hours a week is like really not fun. Really not fun, not sleeping. And then that many hours away from your newborn. I don't know. It was just like way too much for me. And so I ended up just deciding that it wasn't working for me. Oh, and really the Achilles heel there was when after tax season was my first tax season officially being a CPA, and I was kind of expecting a nice little raise for all of that.
Yeah.
And I went from making $40,000 a year to $44,000.
Wow.
And so
Four whole thousand.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I feel like you will. After you're processing taxes for all of these people / businesses, right? Because were you doing like individuals or okay,
both, yeah.
And you see all the money that you're helping to file and all the work that you're doing. How do you not just like want to throw your resignation in their face and be like, I literally helped you process / make X amount of dollars, and you're going to give me a $4,000 raise? Yeah.
Well, that's where it was really eye-opening to me, because when that happened, I literally quit like 2 weeks later. I really did.
You're like, I did.
So I do all of the bookkeeping for this entire firm. And like, for example, one client was like $500 a month, and it literally took me like an hour a week. And so I was like, I can find a couple of these clients and bring the same amount home and hardly have to work at all.
Yeah.
So that's what I decided to do.
Isn't it insane? I feel like it's all like the system is just rigged. Like we're all working to make one person wealthier.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. I used to watch my boss go on like 3-week-long vacations across the country and over into Europe and stuff like that. Like just constantly dreaming about one day that's going to be me. And I'm like, not if you work for somebody.
Exactly. Not if you work for somebody else for the duration of your career, for 30 to 40 years. Like, that's never going to be you. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so you quit 2 weeks later.
Yep. I quit.
And then what?
And then I decided to launch my own business. So at first I was going to do taxes and bookkeeping. I realized pretty quickly that I don't really care for taxes.
Okay.
Bookkeeping is a lot more fun and more steady and less deadline driven.
Sure. Less hectic.
Yeah. So it's like perfect for, somebody that wants to focus on being a mom,
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I launched that business, and I was planning on literally picking up a couple of clients and like going back into the stay-at-home mom mode. And it was crazy because I started networking, and I took my 6-month-old, I think she was about 6 months, 8 months old when I started like actually networking. And I would take her with me to like some events and stuff. And that got a lot of attention because,
first of all, everyone loves babies.
Yes.
All the girls love babies.
Yes, they do. And most people don't bring their babies to stuff like that. So we got a lot of attention, and it just like exploded. And I was surprised at, how many people don't have bookkeepers that really need help because they have to have their bookkeeping done to get their taxes done or to get a loan or whatever.
Right.
And so people were just coming out of the woodwork. And that year, I literally launched my business in May of 2015. And by Christmas Eve, we had enough clients that covered all of our bills. I was just working part-time. And so my husband quit his job too.
I feel like the universe brought you here. The universe, God, whatever you want to call it. I personally would call it both. Today, because I've literally been having these conversations with my husband.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so I do want to ask though, when you said that there were so many people that didn't have bookkeepers that needed bookkeepers, what does that look like? Who are those people?
Yeah, really just like any businesses that are growing. Like I personally liked working with service-based businesses, people that were out there doing like electrician or plumbing or construction or realtors. Those
they're providing a service, not a product.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, they're easier to do bookkeeping wise, and they're a lot of them out there. So, anywhere you hang out where there's business owners, you're going to find people that need help.
Yeah.
And help invoicing their clients, helping with their bill pay, just all sorts of stuff like that.
And how much work would it take you for like a typical client? Like you said, like an hour a week, 2 hours a week?
Yeah. For the average client, if you're just doing like basic bookkeeping, putting their financial statements together, it's about an hour and a half a week. But the other cool thing is that you can lump it all into like 3 or 4 hours at the end of the month.
Right.
So you don't have to stretch it out.
Right.
Each week you can batch it.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
Very flexible.
So does your husband still not work?
Nope, he doesn't work.
Badass.
Yep.
Okay, are you working more now though? Are you doing more than just part-time? Are you still kind of working part-time technically from what you consider full-time / part-time?
Yeah, so I would say that my bookkeeping business grew and the actual bookkeeping work still kept me at part-time. I actually got up to making about $200,000 a year when the twins were born, so like literally right after they were born.
Profit or?
That was revenue.
Okay.
And I was working, I'd say probably about 30-ish hours a week just on the bookkeeping work. Now, I also chose to continue to do some marketing.
Sure.
So that like pushed me probably a little over or close to 40 hours a week.
But like when you're working for yourself, are you really working that much? Like if it's yours, does it really feel like work? You know?
Yeah, it's fun. And, sometimes there's always stressful parts, like if you have a super needy client that you have to teach them boundaries.
And you're eye rolling them 24/7. Yes.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting too because you realize really quickly that you don't have a ceiling on what you can do with your life.
Yeah.
Which is one thing that the corporate world makes you feel like you live in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a container forever, all the time.
Yep. So it is exciting. And it's like you said, it's not work.
Right.
I'll say that it was not easy when I was nursing twins and juggling all of that
and trying
for a while.
to sleep and everything else.
Yes. Yeah. Just from sleep deprivation alone.
Which is nice though, because you are able to, your husband was able to quit his job. You are, carrying the load financially. You're also carrying the load parent and, caregiver and all of that stuff too. But you had that person there to help you all the time, which is huge. And like, it's funny, not to go down a rabbit hole, but this is what we do here, so whatever. Like how everyone's talking about, like Pete Buttigieg is on paternity leave right now and the government is like supporting him and they're like, yeah, we're going to provide paternity leave, which I'm like, first of all, we should provide paternity leave and maternity leave for everyone paid. But I digress. But it's like, it's so important to have the dad there too. Like, it's so important to have another set of hands. It's so important to have more eyeballs, grown eyeballs.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you have kids at home, like it's insanely important. And then but in this country, we're the only developed country that doesn't have paid maternity leave or paternity leave. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. One of the things that was really cool was at that stage of my business when the twins were born, I had the money to hire a doula on top of it.
Did you love it?
Oh,
did you have a postpartum doula?
Yes, postpartum. Well, I had one in the beginning and then I had a postpartum
the best. I actually had a postpartum doula on the podcast too. And I think when we get pregnant and have a baby, I will most certainly hire a doula. And I'm even considering a night nurse too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's one thing I regret not doing. I should have done that.
But my thing is like, okay, and again, rabbit hole, but whatever. Like, do they don't feed the baby, right? Because you would feed the baby if you're nursing.
Yeah.
But like, they just put the baby back to sleep and change the diaper and whatever.
Yeah. Because, one thing I think about, like, especially with teaching infants to sleep, I don't know. I'm sure this is a very controversial topic, but
it is very controversial. So you're about to open up a whole can of worms.
Well, some people say that try not to let them fall asleep while they're nursing because then they can learn to self-soothe a little bit. So maybe if you have a night nurse, then you can nurse them. She
just take them off the boob and then just go put them to bed.
Exactly, and she can kind of rub backs or whatever,
right? And or even rock the baby or whatever, like whatever they need or whatever. Yeah, there's a mom that I follow that her baby is probably like 14 months old now.
Mm-hmm.
She puts her in her bed at 7:30. She wakes up at 8:30.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand how imperative that is. Like,
Yeah.
for me to function as a parent to sleep.
I know. Yeah. So when we were talking before the show started about how I started to get into nursing and I had to basically what they call triple feeding, where you nurse and then you pump and then you feed them, you supplement until you can get the hang of it all.
You do everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a machine.
Exactly. Okay. I totally lost my train of thought. Where
That's
was I
okay.
going with that?
You were saying that you, before the show when we were talking about it, we were talking about the night nurse before too, and then the baby sleeping through the night.
Yeah. Okay. So before I was actually nursing exclusively, and my husband and we would switch off. So I would get like a good solid, even just 6 hours of sleep is
super important.
So
uninterrupted.
Helpful. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when you do that and you're a new mom, you're like,
yeah, I know.
Oh my God, who am I?
Yeah, you feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, even just having a night nurse for like 6 hours, like it doesn't even have to be the whole night.
No.
But yeah, that would be helpful.
Even for like the first, I don't know, month,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just the first month when you're getting the hang of it or whatever, or second month or whatever, like so worth it. And I was reading something that someone said that they hired one. Oh, it was on a podcast. It was on Him and Her, The Skinny Confidential. They have a very popular podcast. And they were talking about how they hired a night nurse because they never stopped podcasting even while she had a baby because they had their own business. Like,
right.
What do you do when you have your own business? Do you just stop? Does the world just stop? And then I think about it like if I were to ever become an entrepreneur and start my own business, like would it feel like work for me? Would I need a maternity leave or would I just make it work, you know, with whatever it is that I have? But I would want to be in a place where my husband could quit his job or at least take paternity leave or FMLA or whatever the case may be so that I had those extra hands there too. Because it really does take a village, man. And in this country, we don't have that village anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
no, we don't.
We don't live that close to our parents or our families or, you know, even if we do, sometimes they don't want to be that support or they're just so busy with their own lives that they have to take care of their businesses. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I feel like you know, you can't like completely step away from your business like you can if you just go on maternity leave for some of your corporate jobs where you're just like, peace out for 12 weeks.
Seriously.
So you can't do that with your business, but you can scale it way back. So like when I was pregnant, the very end of the twin pregnancy was so hard. Like I scaled it back. I probably worked like maybe 5 hours a week. Yeah. Just like totally doing the bare minimum that I needed to do to keep all of my clients happy and no marketing. I didn't take on any new clients during that time, you know, so you can make it whatever you want.
Sure.
And
that's the best part too, right? Because it's yours.
Yep.
You get to decide.
Yeah. And then when the twins were born and I was starting to catch up on my sleep a little bit, then during my shift, we would kind of take turns. I think my shift was like, I don't know, 3 a.m. I woke up and we traded. And so
I love how you're like, my shift.
Yeah. My husband
I clocked in.
He loved
and then
it.
I clocked out.
He loved when we did that. He hated when we went to breastfeeding because then he was like, I lost my shift with the boys. But I know.
So sweet.
It was
and
so
twins.
sweet. Yes. Yeah.
Good job, Dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I would just sit at my desk during my shift and like take turns nursing them. And I had that little pillow, you know, and then I just sit there and type and do my work. And so, yeah,
it's you just have the pillow. You got the baby there. We're cool. I got my arms around you so you're not going to fall. Yeah, whole thing.
Exactly.
It's so funny. That's the coolest part too about motherhood and parenting is just what it showed me. Like I didn't know my true limits until I had a kid.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, you're always pushing past them.
Oh, for sure. You're like, oh, I can do this too. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, add it on. Bring it on. Like, whatever. We got more stuff. I know my daughter looks at me all the time and she's like, how come you're not a PTA mom? And I'm like, because I have a job, bro. Like, I really want to be.
I'd have to tell you, I always had guilt about that too. Like, I wanted to be the room mom, volunteering and stuff like that. But when I started my business, I realized I didn't really like doing that stuff. Yeah. So I just didn't do it. And I don't have any more guilt about it either.
I don't either. I mean, the
like
things I do, I'm sad that I missed out on. Like, she had this thing on Friday where they like made a little derby car and then they have to roll it down the hill or whatever. And I was sad that I didn't get to be there.
Yeah.
But I've also been there for other things for her. And like the day before I got to go to her school and have lunch with her. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like give and take, compromise, you know, but yeah, I don't want to be room mom, PTA mom.
Yeah.
I'm not that creative nor crafty. So like, I'd be like, well, what do I do with my hands? I don't know.
I know. All those people looking up to you like, what's next on this project?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just here. Whatever.
I like the flexibility of being able to go on their field trips and things like that.
Huge.
And actually what we ended up doing is we actually homeschool our kids now too. So the business has given us the flexibility to do that.
Wow.
Which we didn't even know we wanted to do
until
we started the business and it was even an option. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially, okay. I have like 3 questions right now. Start with 1. So with, did you guys start homeschooling pre-COVID?
Yes, we actually did. So right after the twins were born, we decided to move. We love traveling, but when you have infant twins and you have kids at all different ages, everyone's miserable when you go anywhere.
Literally. We can't even go to the grocery store.
Yeah, so we decided to buy a house that was like kind of entertaining for us. We found one about 90 minutes north of where we were living at the time. So we were going to have to, move school districts and stuff right when my older 2 were in middle school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is going to be a really rough challenge and transition for them. So I gave them the option of either going to school or homeschooling. And that's when we started it. And that was back in 2018.
Okay.
So
pre-pandemic. Good job.
Yeah.
You didn't even know you had it in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, wait, everyone had to do this for a whole year.
Yeah. Yes. And that distance learning probably would have been a lot more challenging and miserable than the homeschooling setup that we had. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So you move, you get your kids, or your kids are homeschooled. With that, like, you start your business in 2015, you said?
Yes.
So it's been about 6 years now.
Yep.
Okay. So where clearly your husband was not working, you guys are doing homeschooling, you're working on the side. What does that look like? What does a day in the life look like?
Well, I would say it was just like a list of things that we needed to accomplish each day.
Sure.
And we just kind of went through it one at a time. And that's kind of how we work because, with twins and babies, you're in survival mode anyway for a while.
24/7, yeah.
That's how we managed back then. And we would take turns. Like there was a lot of stuff that I actually could teach my husband to do on the bookkeeping side.
Okay.
Because about 80% of it's really just data entry.
Yeah.
And then 20% of it's like skill level knowledge that you need. And
Sure.
so he was able to help me with a lot of that so that I could spend time with the kids, not just constantly nursing.
Yeah.
So that's what it looked like. For a while when we first started homeschooling, we'd get up in the mornings and from like 8 to noon, we would do homeschooling. And then I would work from like 12 to 4. And then I would hang out with everyone for dinner. And if I had more work to do, then I'd work up 2 or 3 hours at night.
Sure.
So that's kind of how it was. But
so nice.
Every day changed because everybody's needs. There are so many different people that needed something in the
I
household. So
and you're constantly like, I'm just here for you. Okay. I'm just servicing your guys' needs.
Yes. And I am right now like totally on a mission to get myself back because, the twins are 4. So they're like getting self-sufficient.
They're going to sleep at night. I can leave them in their rooms.
Yep.
Oh my
finally.
God. 4-year-old boys. I feel like that would be awesome and crazy at the same time.
Yeah, it definitely is. They are super entertaining.
Yeah.
Wild
and
animals.
Like energetic. Yeah. Climbing all over everything.
And they love to fight. Like boys like to fight and they do flips and yeah.
You're like, no worries. My homeowner's insurance is fine. Everything is fine.
I think I about had 15 heart attacks last night when we're at the hotel and they're doing flips on the bed.
They're
and I'm
jumping
like, there's
everywhere.
concrete on the floor.
Mom, it's free game. What's up?
Yep.
Everything's fine. Actually, you guys the park that you went to is near-ish to where I live. I live in North Fort Worth. So I live off of 35W near, what is that stupid thing called? Texas Motor Speedway.
Okay.
NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. And my daughter is 7 and we just bought a house too. And it's a bigger house because we want to have a kid, and have more kids. And so she's like the exact same, like jumping off of everything, climbing up the stairs, like on the outside of the banister.
Oh yeah.
Like,
God. Yeah. That's a daily
It's like, what, Mom?
occurrence
This
for
bad?
us.
Like, what's going on? How's
half
this
of
bad?
our what do they call those rails?
Yeah.
Half of those are missing because they climb up ours too.
And they just break them off. Children. Okay, so why did you want to start going on like the podcast circuit and exposing your business and getting it out there? Is this for marketing or is there a new program? Or?
Yeah, actually, I ended up selling my bookkeeping business in January of 2019.
Wow.
And so I had a couple of ideas of different things I was going to do. And then in March, I just had this crazy idea. I was like, I could teach other people to have bookkeeping businesses because it's been so instrumental for our life, like literally changed us completely and put our family like on this totally new path of like unlimited opportunity. And so I was like, I really can teach anybody to do this.
Yeah.
It's not hard work. You just need a little bit of guidance. You need a mentor to ask questions. If your clients ask you something you haven't seen before, you can ask someone. And so we started a coaching program in May of 2019, helping other moms learn the skill of bookkeeping, become virtual bookkeepers, and that way they can quit their corporate jobs and stay home with their kids.
That is freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
How
Thank you.
cool. Okay, so I noticed when we were talking about what you wanted to have as far as like the advertising or marketing or logo or whatever, you mentioned the Facebook group. So is your Facebook group like where you are talking about the programs or where you're marketing the programs or how you're exposing the program?
Yep. Our Facebook group is like our little community.
Okay.
So if anybody is like curious about doing this, that's the best place to go because then they can just kind of like explore or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of hide and just...
for sure. Lurking, creeping.
Lurking. There
Absolutely,
we go. Lurking.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people that do that and they really decide, is this for me? Does this really work? People think, is this a scam? Like all the time. So we have them just kind of check it out in there. And I go live every week and talk about the program, answer questions that they have, share student success stories and things like that.
That is badass. Mm-hmm. So, and you're marketing towards stay-at-home moms.
Yes.
Which is why...
Or moms that want to be stay-at-home.
Sure.
That's the majority of them.
Or that want to quit their jobs and have a self-sustaining business, making money.
Yep.
So what about people who are, let's say, okay, so I'm in recruiting, right? I place people all the time. So typically when I'm placing like accountants, they're not always salespeople. Mm-hmm. So what would be like your outlook or your words of encouragement for people who are nervous about how to get clients, right? Like lead generation or how you get those people, and how to work on your extroversion if you're introverted. Because a lot of people who are analytical or they like that data entry, i.e. my husband, who is anti-people, anti-social. It's funny because one of my return guests who's been here like 3 or 4 times, he was supposed to come on after you today and he canceled. And I told my husband, I was like, hey, my second guest canceled. You want to come on? And he was like, that's a hard pass. Absolutely not.
That's hilarious.
But he is phenomenal with numbers. He is our bookkeeper. He has spreadsheets. He has everything broken down, every single
That's
penny.
my love language.
He knows every time I go to QT and how much I spend money on it, and every month how much I spend. But
that's hilarious.
But it's awesome because I know that if I were to branch out and start my own business, I have that person in my back pocket and that resource that I could say, hey, this is how much money I have. This is what I need to do. Can I do it? Does it make sense? But not everybody has that. So what would you say for those that are skilled like Matthew, but do not have that introverted personality like me?
Yeah. So pretty
or
much
the extroverted like me. Sorry.
Yeah. Everyone in my group, including myself, are all introverts. We have very few people that want to do this that are extroverts.
Yeah.
But I think once you see the potential of what can happen with your life, once you just agree to slowly and methodically step out of your comfort zone every now and then, that it pays off like tenfold. And it's really awesome too to see yourself grow as a person. Like 7 years ago, I would have never gone on a podcast interview either. I would have been like, no.
Well, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. So it's fun. You just take baby steps to get there, and a lot of the things like I teach my students how to get clients in a completely free way, just doing like organic stuff and building relationships. Because when people hire a bookkeeper, they want to hire somebody that they know, like, and trust. And
because that's their money, man. That's so important.
Yeah, it's like their life's blood. You're like,
and now we're seeing all that stuff with like Britney Spears and like how she basically lost all of her money. Like, lost control of it all at least. And then you think, oh my gosh, what about those stories where the CPAs or my accountant stole all my money or whatever? Like, you definitely have to have trust in that relationship.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what makes a lot of my students so successful too, because even though they don't have accounting degrees and they're not like, certified or CPAs or anything like that. There's plenty of people out there that want to hire them because they trust them. They have a personal connection with them. So that's what makes it really easy. And if you just even think about like how many people in your circle already have businesses that you could potentially help that you already know.
Exactly.
There's probably a lot.
Yeah.
And when I used to go to networking events and stuff like that, I'm the kind of person that I'm not going to like jump up and be the center of attention. And when they're all going around the circle, asking everyone to introduce themselves, I'm like sweating bullets and want to go last, And so, but that's how it was for me.
Also bring your baby. That's a great icebreaker.
It definitely is. Yes. But you can grow your business and do like marketing, basically like more of like a personal touch, like a one-to-one. Like most people can talk to one person.
For sure.
And if you're a total introvert, getting up in front of 20, 30, 100 is like a hard pass, but one person,
pass.
And the cool thing is you never know when you're talking to that one person, who do they know?
Exactly.
And so it really does. I tell my students this all the time, that it's called the snowball effect. Once they start getting a client or 2 clients or 3 clients, then they start getting referrals and it just starts to
go crazy. The referrals come in and then everybody, it just blows up.
Yep.
How cool that you sold your business 4 years after you started it.
Yeah.
I'm still just sitting here like in awe. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a really neat, like almost even a retirement plan. Like we have like grandmas and grandpas that join the program too, because when you set your bookkeeping business up the way that we teach it, it's based off of reoccurring revenue. So it's very, very attractive to potential buyers because you've got this steady income. You don't have to find new clients month after month. So you can get like 1 times revenue when you sell it. So if your bookkeeping business is making $200,000 a year, you can sell it for $200,000.
Yeah.
No matter what all your expenses are.
Right.
Which, by the way, are very negligible for a bookkeeping business.
It's just hours, right? It's just labor, essentially.
And you can make up to $250,000 a year with no staff if you're willing to work 40 hours a week. So
that's not bad, man.
Yeah.
$250,000 a year?
Yep.
Live on like 50?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then if you really want to get super smart, you can hire a bookkeeper, pay him an amazing salary of like $75,000 a year, because most bookkeepers don't make even near that, and still make
Stack
the rest.
For yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have never figured this out had you never been a mom that was burnt out.
Yeah. Everyone asks me if you could go back in time and change one thing, or what mistake would you want to change? And I'm like, nothing, because it got me here.
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
Every lesson was well learned.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell students that all the time, like there is no true failure or mistake. It's just lessons that you're learning. And then you stack on that and you learn from it and you do better.
That is so cool. So, and you're going on all these podcasts, trying to expose the business.
Yes.
How's that going?
It's going great.
Good.
Yeah.
And then like the lead generation and bringing in moms and more people to your group and exposure and all that stuff.
Yeah. We also run Facebook ads too.
Okay.
And we have an ebook that we have, so people can kind of read a little bit more detail about my journey.
Sure.
So they can kind of see what it would be like, compare their lives to my ebook, and it gives them an idea of what the journey looks like and how it could be possible for them.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get it for Matt.
Yeah.
Matt would love it.
That's awesome.
He would love to be a stay-at-home bookkeeper. He would just love it.
That's so cool. We have like a really small but awesome group of dads in our program too.
I always joke I'm trying to make him a stay-at-home dad. So I'm just trying to make enough money that I can make him a stay-at-home dad.
That's awesome.
He told me last night, he's like, I don't really need that. And I was like, I know you don't need it. But like, I want to do it for you.
Yeah. It's super awesome. Like, it's weird because now my husband is a stay-at-home dad. And so even though I did this because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, I'm still like a stay-at-home, work-at-home mom.
Right.
But my husband does all the stuff that's not fun. Like he does all the laundry and the dishes. And half the time when I'm on Zoom meetings or anything like that, he literally brings me lunch. And so I don't even have
Love
to
that
cook.
guy. Good job, Dad. Well, that's what, I mean, honestly, that's, I think, as an adult, as a working adult and a parent, that you look for different things in your partner after you've already had kids, like you look for someone who's willing to do the division of labor with you.
Yeah.
And like, that's what Matt is. Like this morning as I'm leaving for the podcast, which is like, my fun, my hobby, my outlet, my passion, whatever. And he's like doing the laundry, doing the dishes, like whatever.
That's
and
awesome.
And I was trying to kiss him, and I've been reading and talking to my therapist about like ways to connect with your partner. Like you need to have 7-second kisses and 20-second hugs. And I'm like, no, I need 7 seconds. Like you can't just kiss me for one. And he's like, babe, I got to do this laundry. I got to do this laundry right now. I was like, is that how your brain works? Like in your brain right now, you're like, I got to do this laundry right now. He's like, yes, that's exactly how it works. Anything that's on my list, I got to get it off my list. It can't be on my list anymore.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. He sounds exactly like my husband.
Oh my gosh. But which is so great because he would be the ideal candidate for a stay-at-home dad because he doesn't mind doing those menial tasks. He just hates doing the menial tasks on top of doing his menial job. But you can't just walk away from your job because you have to make money.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
it would be great.
Yeah, we have two paths that our students go down to. Like some people, when they join the academy, they quit their corporate job and they just go all in. But most of the students, they start to grow this on the side while they still have their corporate jobs. So,
right.
And then they just quit when they feel comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Or when they're making enough money.
Yeah. Yep.
Then they can just be like, see you around. Done with this.
I feel like a lot of them end up quitting before they really replace it because they see the potential. And they know if they could focus on it, they'll get there so much faster.
Yeah.
So that ends up happening a lot.
So crazy. Yep. That's awesome.
I've had 2 different students reach out to me in the last couple of weeks just telling me they just retired their husbands. Oh, it was so exciting.
That
Kinda
is so exciting. Like, how awesome is that? Liberating people from corporate America.
And from college. That's what I love too about it. I have always been like a super studious person. Like it was actually really hard for us to transition to homeschool because I'm like the typical student, you know.
And also structure.
Yes, and structure. Yeah. But what I've seen like my students do now and what I've done with my business that I really didn't need a degree for or the certifications that I spent so much money and time on.
So much money.
It's like college is not helpful to people.
Dude, okay. Our education system as a whole, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we teaching?
I feel like we're teaching compliance.
We're teaching compliance and control. Like I literally had lunch with my daughter on Thursday and we're sitting in the lunchroom and it's a lunchroom full of second graders, mind you. They're 7 and 8 years old. They have traffic lights on the wall from when the kids get too loud. And I'm like, bro, you guys have been sitting all day and they're going to tell you that you're exceeding the volume for talking during your talking time. Like, what is this? This is a way of controlling everyone.
Yes, and the lunchroom people tend to get over the top with their control.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
Listen,
I remember that.
Listen, almost grandma with a power trip. I need you to calm down, okay? My daughter's 7 and they want to socialize with their friends because they've been made to sit in a classroom, which my daughter's teacher is amazing. Like she has probably 10 different sitting options for all the kids. They can sit tall, they can sit on the ground, they can sit on moving stools. Like she's
interesting.
An amazing teacher, but not all teachers are like that. Not all teachers' classrooms look like hers. I'm so thankful that that's what Chloe's classroom looks like now, but that's not what it will always look like.
Yeah.
And it's like, after that, and then when the kids get in trouble, they lose their recess.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either.
What? Why?
Well, when I started homeschooling my oldest child, he did not do well with it.
Yeah.
And so it was frustrating. And so we ended up putting him in like an online school thinking, okay, we need to go back to more like traditional routes. And that was even worse because all it really taught him was to cheat. You know, like Google all this stuff, Google the answers. And he wasn't learning anything. And so by the time
At least he's resourceful though, right?
Yeah. That's what he's like. Well, I'm going to get...
Mom, I figured out the answer. Why does it matter how?
Exactly. I've accomplished the task of finishing this class and getting a good grade. That's all that matters, right?
Right.
So after a couple years of that, I was like, this is not what I wanted my kids to go through.
And think about like all the real life skills that we still have to teach our kids, like bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Like paying your taxes. Like being financially literate. Like being a good person.
Yep.
When do we teach that in school?
I know.
No, we just teach that only good grades matter. That's it. Doesn't matter how you get there. Just only good grades matter. And if you don't get good grades and you're not going to make it into a good school, then you won't get a good job to where you go and make somebody else rich for the duration of your life. What?
Yeah, it's kind of messed up.
That's a great system. I love living here. I mean, and of course, everything that I say is, just drenched in sarcasm. But it's like, realistically, though, what are we teaching our children? Are we teaching them like how to properly clean the house. Like, how many kids know how to really clean a house or do laundry or any of those things like that we could be teaching them all the time if we worked like 20 or 30 hours a week.
Right. And you're just there more to have these things happen organically.
It just happened. And just spend more time with your children. But instead, like you were saying earlier, you had to pay for someone to take your kid to school. You have to pay for someone to pick up for your kid from school. And then by the time you finally get home, you're exhausted from the day, from everything that you're doing. And then your kid is also exhausted from going from A, B, C, and D. And then now they're home and then they have dinner and they go to bed. Like,
yeah. And that's a benefit that just kind of came to me that I hadn't really thought about with you saying that right now, because when my kids came home from school, they were so tired and they were sometimes often anxious or depressed even.
Yeah.
And so our evenings weren't even fun.
No.
They weren't even fun most of the time. And the homework, when my son was in 7th grade before we moved and transitioned to homeschool, he had homework like hours and hours every night that I couldn't really even help him with.
And it's like, what are they really teaching them? Like, is this the stuff that we want them to know for the rest of their life? How often have you used algebra?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not saying that like history and science and English, those things are not important, but like, what are we teaching them? What kind of tools are we putting in their toolbox so that when they grow up and they leave college, that they're equipped to handle the real world? How are college kids graduating? They don't know how to hard boil an egg.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
You don't know how to cook?
I know so much. I feel like you have to learn so much too, just by like messing up because we aren't taught
mistakes.
This stuff when we're younger.
But then in our society, we also have cancel culture. So if you make a mistake, you're canceled. So you're not allowed to make mistakes and mess up and then learn from them.
Yeah, that's one thing I've really had to help break from my son. I could tell that my older two both, actually, they have this like super huge fear of failure. And that makes you into this like fixed mindset where, you know, you don't want to step out of that bubble because you might get labeled as something else, not the smart kid anymore or whatever, because you mess up. And we've had to heal from that.
Yeah. We're constantly walking on eggshells because we're worried about, and I mean, even my daughter, she wants to win this award at school. It's called Honorable Character, which they get points for, you know, when they help out their friends or when they do this or when they do that. But it's like, you're so focused on doing that and winning that award. Not that that's a bad award, but you're worried about that what happens when you do take a step out or when you step out of line or you make a mistake. And then it's like, oh, you lose that honorable character. No, man, you're still a good person. Like, you're an honorable character in my book. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's all interesting.
Yeah.
It's all very, what do they call that? Like meta, when you look down on it and you're like, what is this? How are we living? Like, what is going on here? And then exactly what you were saying about college, like, how important is it? Like, I don't think college is for education. College is for networking. College is, you can meet people in college that when you get out of college, they hopefully one day will help you get a job. You know, because that's why on LinkedIn, everybody puts their college on their, you know, education and their experience because, oh, I went to Texas Tech. You went to Texas Tech? Great. Let's talk. Let's have an interview. Let's have a conversation, whatever. It's all about the network.
Yeah.
And it's like, what did they really learn there?
Yeah.
How to get drunk? A lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Get into a lot of debt?
Yeah.
$60,000 a year? What did we learn?
Yeah.
But I also don't want to take away the experience of college because that is a very important part of your life where you are independent and learning how to do things for yourself, like getting your ass to class on time and making sure that you're being responsible and not getting wasted when you're supposed to be taking exams or whatever. But I wonder how much it really is teaching our children, which they are still children in college, about the real world. Like, what are, you know, when's the last time you had a business politics class? Like, politics of the workplace, you know, like, or couth for professional settings, like how you're supposed to behave when the boss's boss comes in, you know? Nobody ever teaches you any of those things. You're just supposed to learn them. And then, you know, God forbid you mess up and you say something terrible, then you get fired or something, you know? Like, nobody ever knows.
Or shamed.
Yeah. You're an idiot, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think that, like, both of my parents were entrepreneurs too. My father passed in May. He was in the military, and then when he got out of the military, he told his dad, which my grandfather had worked in automotive forever. He owned a shop, and then he sold the shop and moved down to Texas. He lived in a very small town in Illinois, Dallas City, Illinois, which was super cool. When he moved down here, he started working for two big organizations, Midas and IPC Youth, and they both created exhaust systems for cars. So your mufflers, all of that stuff.
Okay.
So my grandfather worked in that industry, and my dad said, hey, when I get out of the military, that's what I want to do. He said, because he was like, I'm really good with my hands. He was a mechanic in the military, worked on Chinook helicopters, so the ones that have the dual blade or whatever, not blades, but
propeller or something.
Is it a propeller? I don't know. Probably.
I don't know either.
I'm like, the thing that goes around and around. He worked on those in the military. He got out, and his dad said, you need to pick a trade, pick a specialty, because a general mechanic will have 47 different projects and never finish one of them, So he was like, pick exhaust. There are very few experts at exhaust, especially where we are. So my dad did, and he owned his own business since 2001, and he died this year in May.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. 20 years. 20 years he owned his own business, and
That's awesome.
He was not the typical business owner. Like, some days he would be so exhausted from working, 30 hours straight the week before or whatever. The shop would be closed on a Monday or a Thursday or whatever, but he would always make sure the deadlines were met and the work was done. And I, too, got to help him in the office with the QuickBooks, with the bookkeeping, with all of those things. Yeah, which was super cool because I got to see that real life experience. Like, this is my dad's livelihood. This is how he makes money. This is how he feeds me, and I got to help him when I was younger and as an adult. And he trusted his ex-wife to be his bookkeeper. She ended up stealing like almost $250,000 from him.
Wow.
Terribly.
That's crazy.
Because he was the skill. He was not the bookkeeper, So he was just like, at the end of the day, and I mean, there were so many times where my dad didn't even take a paycheck, just to make sure that the business was running and thriving. And, as long as they had food and everything else, he was like, I'm not really worried about me getting money, which was, as you look in hindsight, which was terrible, right? Because he lost so much money. But,
yeah.
And then my mom, she started a cleaning business in 2005. So she did residential, commercial, and like new builds. So she got contracts with builders for their model homes and market homes that were going to come on the market. And she's done that since then.
Awesome.
So it's super cool to have parents who are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It also shows you like the true meaning of accountability. Like, at the end of the day, you are accountable.
Yes.
You have to be held responsible for all of these things, especially if it's your name that you're going to put out there. But
yeah, it can be have a little bit of pressure for that, being an entrepreneur.
For sure. Which is good pressure, right? Because it keeps you honest. Yeah.
Yep.
Have you ever had to turn anybody away as a client or fire a client?
Yeah, I have. There's only about, I would say, 3 people when I had my bookkeeping business that I had to let go or turn away.
Yeah.
Mostly was just personality, issues.
Really?
I'd like to say they were crazy and it wasn't me at all.
Or I could be PC and say, we just didn't mesh well.
Yes, exactly. We did not mesh well. So yeah, but there was only about 3 people. Most everybody else just stays. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever, this is a good question. I don't know if this had ever happened to you. Did you ever notice, like, when you were doing the books for anyone, that they were, like, someone in the company was embezzling or stealing money or doing anything crazy like that?
I do have a crazy story about this. I did have, 2 different occasions. One client, and this ended up being one that I had to let go because she had gotten so much bad advice from the past that she couldn't listen to the right advice because the right advice meant she had to pay some tax, and she had gotten some bad advice about how to avoid paying tax altogether, and was really in a bad spot. Like, her books were not right, her tax returns were not right.
Yeah.
And if she ever was to get audited, she would probably be in a world of hurt, but she kept going back to the same tax person that was doing her taxes, and I'm like, you really cannot trust this person.
Yeah.
And like fast forward, this tax preparer actually ended up getting flagged by the IRS, and she was getting looked into and actually ended up committing suicide because she knew she was going to be
in that much trouble.
Prison. Yeah, she would have gotten put in prison because she had a whole bunch of clients that she was using this method of helping them not pay tax, which really wasn't even a method. It was just her own made up thing to make it look like the tax returns
She's like,
show no
avoid
tax.
taxes, but not prison.
Yeah. So, but that client, I really tried to help her, from that situation, but she just had been doing it with this other person for like 8 years. And so she just couldn't imagine that she would owe any tax.
Nutty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes when clients don't value you enough or listen to you, it's not even worth it. You'll just be talking to a brick wall. So
I'm like on the other end of the spectrum. I would like blindly trust you because I'd be like, oh, you're good at this? Okay, great. You do it.
Yeah, that's what most people do with their bookkeepers. But it's great to have a bookkeeper and then maybe even a separate tax person to look over that stuff. So you have some checks and balances.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually had an experience with a CPA that was less than favorable, where he tried to charge me almost $1,000 to prepare 1 year of taxes with like a W-2.
Really?
And I was like a single mom, like broke. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding? Like, it's a simple what? It's a simple what?
And they should definitely be upfront about their fees
cost,
before they
and then
forward.
He was like $1,000. I'm like, good luck, man. You can't get $1,000 from me. That's my rent money. Like, it's not going to happen. But you know what I mean? Like, and then people that are dishonest in business and stuff like that, I feel like the universe will come and get you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Everything
absolutely.
comes around.
Yeah.
Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah,
and I would
me
love
too.
for you to plug anything and everything for people to find you. And congrats on being courageous and getting on podcasts, because I think that this will definitely pay off for you. My listenership is probably about 60 to 70% women.
Awesome.
And a lot of them are in the baby making stage.
Okay.
So that is cool, because I know that there are going to be some listeners that are interested in your group and that are interested in making money, real money from home.
Yep.
I can actually think of like 2 people right now that this would be perfect for. One of them just had a baby. And she was asking me, hey, do you know? Actually, 2 of them just had a baby, and they were like, one of them quit their job because their job asked too much of them without paying enough, for sure. And then the other one, she's been in property management, so apartments. And she was asking me the same thing. She's like, what do you know about like work from home stuff? Like, how does this work? And because I'm in staffing and recruiting, like it's easy for me to be like, yes. And which a lot of companies are. They are transitioning to work from home with the pandemic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then a lot of other companies are asking people to come back like nothing happened.
Well, in your position, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What is the typical salary range or hourly range for people that you're staffing, even in remote positions?
Well, it really depends on their skill set. So where you can do data entry at home for $20 an hour, that's not a high skill, right? That they don't value that.
Right.
But I also place IT professionals that are upwards of $225 plus. And they're working from home too. But they have like their entire home lab with all their computers and screens and all that stuff too.
They're a specialist essentially.
Oh, for sure. Skilled.
Yeah.
But with what you're saying too is that, your program teaches these women to do the things that they need to do and how they can make their own money and make up to, like you said, $250,000 a year if you're willing to put in that 40 hours a week.
Yep.
From home.
Yeah. And if you don't want to work 40 hours a week, you can work
20.
a lot less. 20 or 10. And you're making $100 an hour minimum with the bookkeeping.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
But with that though, and with owning your own business, and I don't want to like, not false pretenses, but like unrealistic expectations. When you're working for yourself, you still, you're like a 1099. So like you still have to pay all of your own taxes and all of that stuff too. So you do have to save your money, which is very important.
Yes. You want to put back probably, depending on your tax situation,
right?
about 20% of your profit.
Yeah.
But it depends on your tax situation. Depends on how many kids you have.
Heard that.
Yeah.
Have them babies.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really have to pay a whole lot of tax when I had my bookkeeping business. So, but
I have 5 kids. Just saying.
Yes.
I'm like, how many kids should I have now? Just kidding. But I do love them and they're great.
Yes.
Yeah. So, stayatHomebookkeeper.com.
Yep.
Okay. And then your Facebook group, what is that called?
Yeah, our Facebook group is unique. It's called Have Your Cake and Eat It Too.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's our motto. So we try to, make sure that parents
gladly
can
take some cake anytime.
Yeah, exactly. have their financial dreams and be home with their kids. So
how perfect.
Yeah.
So awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. I really did enjoy this.
Me too.
I hope that you come back too in we'll put you on the schedule for 6 months.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the updates. We can talk about how you're doing and all of that stuff.
That sounds great.
And
I'd love to.
Maybe some success stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
From some people from your group.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get Matt to be a stay-at-home bookkeeper.
That would be awesome. He can be our success story.
Oh my
6
gosh.
months. Let's have him on.
Done and done, buddy. Yeah, right.
Awesome.
He'd be like, hard pass. I'm going to be at home working on my bookkeeping stuff.
That's hilarious.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I really did appreciate this.
Yeah, me too.
And enjoy the whole time.
Thank you.
So for those who are listening, Big Girl Pants Podcast, Big Girl Pants Pod on Twitter. We are also Big Girl Pants Pod on Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at biggirlpantspod@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you.